Now I'm going to make the sleeve part. For the sleeve part, I use a 6mm short knitting needle. It would be great if you have a crochet needle for this part. Firstly, I'll transfer the yarn that was separated to the needle again. I'll put the knitting needle back to the stitches that I separated. Once you move all the stitches, cut the short yarn that we used to separate the sleeve part and remove it. We are going to make 4 rows without increasing or decreasing. So firstly, pick up a stitch and purl 2 stitches together. And without increasing or decreasing, I'll purl all the stitches in the first row. If you're done purling the first row, we will knit the second row. Pick up 1 stitch and knit 2 stitches together. And without increasing or decreasing, I'll knit all the stitches in the second row. We will repeat this first and second row once more. The reason why we do this is to stretch the upper sleeve part a little bit more because the sleeve stitch have been separated early, unlike when we make a cardigan or a knit that has long body part. After I'm done making all 4 rows, I make 1 stitch every row on the both sides until I have 8 stitches left on the body part. Now we are increasing the stitches, so you do not need to knit 2 stitches together every time you start the row. I repeat the same thing until I have 8 stitches left on the body part. Next, when there are 8 stitches left for the body part, I'll make all 8 stitches at once and start knitting sleeve parts in earnest. I choose the purl stitches for the sleeve part, but it actually does not matter. If you found knitting more comfortable, you can choose to knit. If you found purling more comfortable, you can purl. I planned to make a total of 58 stitches, so before I started, I double checked if it was 58 stitches. I'm going to put a marker in the middle of the 8 stitches that I just picked. If you've got more or less number of stitches than me, please double check whether your stitches picked up are the same as the number you planned. You'll knit or purl 4 rows without increasing or decreasing. After first 4 rows, I'm going to decrease the sleeve part so that it won't flutter too much. I wanted it to be narrow, so I decreased it by 1 stitch in 5 rows. Here, I decrease before the marker. Simply purl 4 rows, decrease 1 stitch before the marker, purl another 4 rows, and decrease 1 stitch after the marker. Try your bolero on from time to time and knit it until it hits your wrist. What is important at this time is to decrease the 1 stitch before the marker and another 1 stitch after the marker. Here, as you can see, I decrease after the marker. You can continue this until it reaches your wrist. Now I'm going to start the 1 by 1 rib stitch row, and I use a 4.5mm needle because I like my wrist part getting a little narrower. It's good to use a 5mm needle. It doesn't matter if you use 6.0mm needle. Firstly, I purl all the stitches to change the needle. After changing the needle, I simply knit 1 row for the pattern. If you started knitting, you can purl 1 row. And I started a 1x1 rib stitch row. Simply knit 1 stitch per 1 stitch and knit 1 per 1 and continue this. If your 1x1 rib stitch row ends up with knit stitch, you can simply knit 2 stitches together. After 8 rows of 1x1 rib, we'll cast off. As like what we did at the body part, we will knit the first 2 stitches, knit and purl 1 stitch each. Use your left needle and lift the right stitch over the left stitch, and simply drop off the needle. For the next stitch, knit 1 stitch, use your left needle to lift the right stitch over the left stitch. Again, purl 1 stitch, pull the first stitch over the second one. We'll continue the same step. Now I'm going to make the neck part. It's very simple. It would be great if you have a crochet needle, but even if you do not have one, it's still fine. I use 4mm knitting needle here. Make a knot first and pick up the stitches one by one. If you picked up all the stitches on the neck part, put one marker here. For the first row, we will simply knit all the stitches. If the cord of the needle is too long, you can knit it by taking the cord out in the middle. For the second to fifth rows, we will do 1x1 rib stitch row. Knit 1 stitch per 1 stitch, knit 1 per 1 and continue. If you get 2 knit stitches at the end of the row, you can increase 1 by using KFB, or you can decrease your stitch by purling 2 stitches together. After the fifth row, we will cast off. We will knit the first 2 stitches, knit and purl 1 stitch each. Use your left needle and lift the right stitch over the left stitch. For the next stitch, knit 1 stitch and cast off. Again, purl 1 stitch and cast off. We will continue the same step until you reach the end. After casting off all the stitches, we need a mat needle. And after hiding the yarn using a mat needle, it's completed.
Now we have cute bolero.